Mary pulled the car into the drive, fender lightly brushing the ash cans and sending them into an overturned pile. What did it matter? She was home. She turned off the ignition and just sat for a moment behind the wheel, mind and body exhausted. She opened the door and crawled out. Her gaze traveled up to Elliot's closet window where he'd placed one of his stuffed goblins. The things they make for children these days are enough to cause hallucinations. She continued up the walk and onto the porch. Harvey met her at the door, bowl in his mouth. "Don't give me that look, Harvey. I have enough guilt." She pushed on past the pleading beast to the mail table. Any letters from secret admirers? Wandering monsters? Nothing, just junk, bills, overdue bills, long overdue bills, and a letter from a collection agency. Let them break her kneecaps. She tossed the mail in the conveniently situated wastepaper basket and removed her shoes. She called to her tribe. "Anybody home?" She received no answer except from Harvey. "Take that bowl out of your mouth." She remained in the hall chair, too tired to proceed further. A fly buzzed around her forehead and she brushed it away, then brushed it away again, then saw there wasn't any fly and the buzzing was in her head. Next it'd be bells, and then voices. Well, no time for a nervous breakdown today. She got up and proceeded to the kitchen where she saw that Elliot had cooked a healthy breakfast for himself on the floor. She cleaned off the cupboards, the doors, and then made herself a cup of strong coffee. She sat with it for a long time, contemplating her feet. Tired feet. Feet that wanted to go on strike. "Hey, anybody home?" They didn't answer her, of course. They were deep in secret projects. Maybe they were plotting to overthrow the government. So long as they do it quietly. The back door banged open with the sound of a cannon, and Michael came in as if mounted on an elephant. "Hi, Mom, how was your day?" "Good, how was yours?" Michael shrugged, indicating she knew not what. "I'm going to play some football now," he added, indicating that nothing, but nothing, should stand in his way. "Fine," she said. "Have fun. Trample on." She gave a flick of her hand as if giving permission, which hadn't been asked for. She resumed staring into her coffee cup and regrouping her energy. Michael put on his shoulder pads and grabbed his helmet. He was feeling violent today. He was moving. In 2 strides, he was in the upstairs hallway, but Elliot stood there, blocking his way. "Michael? How you doing, faker?" Michael pushed on past. "I got something really important to tell you." "Yeah, what?" "Remember the goblin?" "Goblin? Hey, get out of the way! Wait a second, Michael. This is serious. He came back." Elliot. Michael had little or no use for his younger brother. Elliot was a sort of weasel with nasty little moves like the ones he usually made in Parcheesi. "Back off." "I'm going to show him to you, but he belongs to me." Michael hesitated. "Well, make it fast. Swear first. The most excellent promise you can make." Okay, let me see. What is it, a skunk or something? Do you have it in your room? Mom'll kill you." Elliot led Michael down the hall. "Take off your shoulder pads," he said as they entered the room. "You might scare him." "Don't push it, Elliot." Elliot led him over to the closet. "Close your eyes." "Why? Just do it, will you, Michael?" Within the closet, the elderly being was reviewing everything he knew about communication devices which he must somehow build. He heard the 2 cabbage heads come into the room but ignored their approach, more intent on searching his brain for transmitter blueprints. The closet door suddenly opened. Elliot put his arm around him and nodded reassuringly. "Come on, meet my brother." They stepped out just as Gertie, home from nursery school, raced into the room. Seeing the monster, she screamed, as did the monster and Michael, who'd just opened his eyes. The mingled voices pierced to the command center of the house where Mary sat trying to pull herself together. Oh, God. She rose from the kitchen table. What savage ritual was her family enacting now? It sounded like they were pulling Gertie's hair. Mary climbed the stairs, ready to take notes, which she'd give to Gertie when her analysis began. She walked warily down the hall toward Elliot's room. A full day's work at the office, followed by infant trauma in the home. Just another of life's little challenges. She paused a moment outside Elliot's door. At least the room would be neat. She opened the door. Every object Elliot owned had been dumped on the floor. Mary looked at him. How, in the midst of this, could he have such an innocent expression on his face? What happened in here? In where? Where? Look at this mess. How is this possible? You mean my room? This isn't a room. It's an accident. Did you hire a whirling dervish? Inside the closet, the old cosmologist huddled between Gertie and Michael. The little girl seemed ready to bite him. The boy's mouth was hanging open in a dumb gaze, and his enormously misshapen shoulders were taking up considerable room in the tiny closet. The guest from space hoped this present arrangement would not be permanent, as quarters were cramped enough. He peered out through a crack in the louvered door at the mother of the house, who was pointing at the debris he'd strewn around the room in his search for transmitter parts. He tried to gauge the friendliness of the Earth woman. She wore no metal chains, did not appear armed, and was every bit as attractive as the Martian princess in the poster, though of course she too lacked the supreme beauty of the perished lower silhouette, and had nothing to comment on in the way of long toes. Elliot, I heard Gertie scream. Were you and Michael hurting her in some way? Hey, Mom, you mustn't do things like that, Elliot. It's costly in the end. About $90 an hour, to be exact. Mom, I didn't do anything. Then why was she screaming? I don't know. She just came in, screamed, and ran back out. Mary pondered this. Had she, as a little girl, run into rooms, screamed for no reason, and run back out? She had, frequently, and she felt like screaming now. Come to think of it, she'd just been screaming. Maybe she'd scream at Elliot a little more and then leave. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to scream at you, Elliot. I'm sorry too, but clean up your room or I'll kill you. Okay, Mom, you bet. Mary turned and left the room. When her footsteps were sounding on the stairs, the closet door opened and Michael, Gertie, and the old monster came out. Michael had changed profoundly in a few moments' time. He felt he'd been blocked on the 50-yard line by a steamroller. His body was numb, and he kept thinking he was dreaming, that maybe he had gone to football practice, had knocked heads with someone, and was unconscious. But there was Gertie, her regular annoying self, and there was rotten Elliot, life-size, and there was the monster. Elliot, we've got to tell Mom. We can't, Michael. She'll want to do the right thing. You know what that means, don't you? Elliot pointed at the elderly Voyager. He'll wind up as dog food. Harvey thumped his tail. Does he talk? No. Well, what is he doing here? I don't know. The two boys looked at their 5-year-old sister, who was staring at the creature, her eyes wide. Gertie, he won't hurt you. You can touch him. The stranded old traveler submitted to more probing and prodding, the children's fingertips pulsing their message inward to his deep receptors, and though the messages were chaotic and confused, these little coconuts weren't stupid. But could they lift him into the great nebula? You're not going to tell, are you, Gertie? Not even Mom? Why not? Because grown-ups can't see him. Only kids see him. I don't believe you. Elliot took Gertie's doll from her hands. You know what will happen if you tell. He wrenched the doll's arm up behind her back. Stop it! Stop! Promise not to tell? Is he from the moon? Yeah, he's from the moon. Mary lay on the bedroom floor, exercising along with the TV. The show's hosts were a Swedish woman of 50 without a wrinkle and her muscular boyfriend. And 1, 2, 3. Mary struggled to follow them, got mixed up, turned off the sound, and just lay there on the rug in her favorite pose, the one in which she looked like she'd been shot in the belly with an arrow. Faintly, from Elliot's room, she heard the voices of her 3 children. She knew they were hatching some scheme. There was a peculiar tension in the air. Was that why her head was buzzing again, or was it from the bizarre exercise she'd just tried to perform with her ankle behind her ear? She'd never try that one again. Her thigh muscle was still quivering. She looked at the moron on the TV who was silently mouthing instructions to her. Despite his low IQ, she had a crush on him and fantasized jumping hand in hand with him into the televised swimming pool while the Swedish woman rotated her big toe with 2 fingers. Enough, enough. She switched off the tube. It was time to feed the mouths of hungry babes. All right, she called, entering the hallway. Come and help me fix the dinner. Naturally, there was no response, and she proceeded on down the stairs alone. Tonight we'll have turkey gristle pot pies and, let me see, instant mashed potatoes would be a charming side dish, along with a handful of pretzels. She labored over these preparations, her eyes occasionally going to the kitchen window and the yard next door where her neighbor was riding his lawnmower like a demented giant on a kiddie-mobile. Her own yard had no grass, of course, because of Harvey, who insisted on digging it up in search of non-existent bones. He looked at her now, ears bagging in that way he had, one up, one down. Who ate the broomstick, Harvey? Anyone we know? Harvey licked his chops, his tongue going up over his nose. Why, Harvey? What did you see that excited you? Did that little French poodle go by again with the bow in her curls? Is that what set you off? Harvey nodded, growling low, then whimpering. Food had not been forthcoming all day. Everyone had forgotten the main business around here, of feeding dogs. What was going on? Was it because of the monster upstairs? I will have to eat him, thought Harvey quietly. Mary went to the stairs and graciously announced dinner. Come down, or else! Eventually, there was the patter of rhinoceros steps on the stairs, and her brood appeared, looking secretive. What are you up to? Come on, I can read you like a book. Nothing, Mom. Michael sat down, Gertie beside him. Gertie looked at the pot pie. Yuck. Shut up, dear. Elliot, please pass the salt. I made a house in the big closet today. Elliot looked shiftily at her. What kind of house? Sort of like a hideout. Oh, really? How did you find the time with all the messing up you had to do? Can I keep it? You're not going to use it to escape from responsibility, are you, Elliot? Young boys should not spend all their time in a closet. Not all the time, just some of the time. I'll give it careful consideration, said Mary, by which they all knew she had no choice, that Elliot would torment her about it until she capitulated. She tried to change the subject gracefully. Aren't these potatoes delicious? Yuck. Do have some more, Gertie, since you like them so much. I eat better at nursery school, said Gertie. We have big chocolate donuts. Really? I must talk to the head of the nursery school about that. He's a goon. Gertie, don't use words you don't understand. A goon, sang Gertie quietly over her potatoes while Mary put her head in her hands. Upstairs, the ancient fugitive crept out of the closet. The room was before him, a pile of clutter he created in his search for transmitter parts, a search he continued now. His eyes swept the room, fine focus on. The electrons of the room appeared, dancing their circular dance, but the inner cosmic whirl was of no help. He needed solid objects, such as the record player. He clicked his focus back to ordinary vision and shuffled over to the machine. The turntable was empty. He put his finger on it and gave it a spin. How does a fork combine with this? Answer to come. Over. He nodded. Escape was to be through spun signals, spun out into the night, threads of hope, hundreds of millions of them, radiant as the willow creature's silken hair. From below in the house came the sound of forks. He knew it well now, and of glasses, plates, and a distorted jabber that played in his ears. Mama, why do kids see things you can't see? What have you been seeing, Gertie? Elliot's goblin? Mama, what are the people who aren't people? The person who wasn't a person sensed that the children would not purposely betray him, but the little girl could be trouble, for she had no understanding of the need for secrecy. However, for now all seemed secure. Dinner was finishing, a great quantity of M&Ms apparently having been consumed. He hoped they would bring him some soon. All right, who's doing the dishes? The willow creature's voice came to him along with her telepathic image, head crowned in waves of radiant fibers, finer than silk. If only her nose were more like a bashed-in Brussels sprout. He spun the turntable again with his finger. Elliot's footsteps sounded on the stair, and then the boy entered the room carrying a tray. Here's your supper, he said in a whisper and handed it over. On the plate were some lettuce leaves, an apple, and an orange. The ancient student of plant life took the orange and ate it, peel and all. That the way you always do it? The elderly Voyager frowned. His inner system analyzer was advising him to wash it first next time. How are you making out? You feel okay? Elliot noticed the still spinning turntable. You want to hear something? The monster signaled that he did. Elliot put a record on and lowered the needle. Accidents will happen, but it's only rock and roll. The old star tracker listened to the peculiar sound and watched the black disc spin, his mind engrossed by thoughts of his transmitter. The ship of wondrous night would not respond to rocks rolling down a hillside. He must send in the true speech of his people. How could he modify this sound? How could he multiply its frequency into the microwave region? His ear picked up the voice of the willow creature down the hall. Gertie, what are you doing, sweetie? I'm going to play in Elliot's room. Don't let him tease you. The child entered, pulling a little wagon filled with toys. In it, she had placed a potted geranium, which she set at the old botanist's feet. He stared down at the offering. His heart light fluttered. Thank you, little girl. That is very nice of you. Harvey the dog entered. He sniffed the monster and proceeded to the geranium. Did it need watering? Harvey, be cool. Michael entered, hoping that somehow the monster would have vanished, but it was there and he had to deal with it. He studied it for a moment, then turned to Elliot. Maybe he's just some animal that wasn't supposed to live. Don't be lame, Michael. But I don't believe in stuff like this. I do, now. I always did, really. Gertie was emptying her other gifts in front of the monster. Here's some clay. Do you ever play with that? The extraterrestrial took it into his hand and lifted it to his mouth, preparing to bite off a sizable portion. No, silly, you roll it. Gertie showed him how, and he proceeded to roll a ball in his palms. I have an idea, said Elliot. Where's the globe? Michael handed it to him. Elliot turned it in front of the Star Wanderer to North America. Look, see? This is where we are. The Wanderer nodded, recognizing terrain he'd often seen, coming in at an angle like this above the planet in the Ship of Ages. Yes, he knew the planet too well. Yeah, said Elliot. That's where we're from. Where are you from? The old Voyager turned, staring out the window at the star-filled sky. Elliot opened an atlas and pointed to a picture of the solar system. Are you from our part of the universe? The monster separated the modeling clay and laid 5 balls down on the map of the system around a central sunball. 5? Are you from Jupiter? He could not understand their questioning jabber. He pointed at the 5 balls and released an electron elevator from his fingertips. The balls rose up in the air and floated above the children's heads. The balls orbited there, round and round, as the children groaned, the strength seeming to have gone out of their legs. Oh, no. Had he offended them? He switched off the electron blanket and the balls fell to the floor. Then he retired into the closet with his geranium.